The Power of Now, a guide to spiritual enlightenment, with a new preface by author Eckhart Tolle. So, those of you who don't know about Eckhart Tolle was born in Germany, but had a very strong enlightening experience at the age of 28, 29. And from there on, he went and pursued, met a lot of masters, but never became a disciple of anybody. He's one of the few people who has interacted with a lot of learned men, a lot of learned masters, but never took a name and followed his journey on his own in order to enlighten himself, and successful author of about 4 to 5 books, and impart that same and share the same with everybody so that they are able to uh, get onto that path of enlightenment. So, The Power of Now was his first book. It was first published in 1997. So, imagine this book has been there for 25 years. And for all those who are reading it for the first time, so it took 25 years for this excellent book to come to you. So, it has come for a reason. And definitely, whatever it's come for will unreveal itself in the due course of time. So, the contents of the book, about this book, about the author, there's an introduction. Chapter 1, You're Not Your Mind. Chapter 2, Consciousness, The Way Out of Pain. Chapter 3, Moving Deeply into the Now. Chapter 4, Mind Strategies for Avoiding the Now. Chapter 5, The State of Presence. Chapter 6, Inner Body. Chapter 7, Portals into the Unmanifested. Chapter 8, Enlightened Relationships. Chapter 9, Beyond Happiness and Unhappiness, There is Peace. Chapter 9, The Meaning of Surrender. So, about this book, to make the journey into the power of now, we will need to leave our analytical mind and its false created self, the ego, behind. From the beginning of the first chapter, we move rapidly into a significant higher altitude where one breathes a lighter air, the air of the spiritual. Although the journey is challenging, Eckhart Tolle offers a simple language and a question answer format to guide us. The words themselves are the signposts. For many of us, there are new discoveries to be made along the way. We are not our mind. We can find our way out of psychological pain. Authentic human power is found by surrendering to the now. We also find out that the body is actually one of the keys to entry into a state of inner peace, as are the silence and the space all around us. Indeed, access is everywhere available. These access points or portals can all be used to bring us into the now, the present moment where problems do not exist. It is here we find our joy and are able to embrace our true selves. It is here we discover that we are already complete and perfect. Many of us will find that our biggest obstacle to this realization is our relationships, especially our intimate relationships. But again, we are in new territory, and all is not what it had seemed before. We come to see that our relationships are yet another doorway into spiritual enlightenment if we use them wisely. Meaning, if we use them to become more conscious and therefore more loving human beings, the result, real communion between self and others. If we are able to be fully present and take each step in the now, if we are able to feel the reality of such things as the inner body, surrender, forgiveness, and the unmanifested, we will be opening ourselves to the transforming experience of the power of now. So about the author, he was born in Germany, where he spent the first 13 years of his life. After graduating from University of London, he was a research scholar, a supervisor at Cambridge University. When he was 29, a profound spiritual transformation virtually dissolved his old identity and radically changed the course of his life. The next few years were devoted to understanding, integrating, and deepening that transformation, which marked the beginning of an intense inward journey. Eckhart is not aligned with any particular religion or tradition. In his teachings, he conveys a simple yet profound message with the timeless and uncomplicated clarity of the ancient spiritual masters. There is a way out of suffering and into peace. Eckhart is currently traveling extensively, takes his teachings and his presence throughout the world. He has lived in Vancouver, Canada since 1996. So few of some of the accolades by fellow members, fellow authors. So let's go to the preface by Mark Allen, author of Visionary Business and a Visionary Life. So before we go to the preface, now, the way he has mentioned and, the flow and the systematic structure of the book is such that it goes direct to the point and it follows a very nice question answer approach. Now, what's so good about a question answer approach in a book is because whenever we are doing anything, we have a lot of questions. And a lot of times, a lot of people just hesitate to ask them. वो क्या सोचेगा, लोग क्या सोचेंगे, what will he think, what will she think, and generally don't ask. There are a few who ask. I'm not saying the world is full of all kinds of people, but yeah, for those who do not ask, or for those who ask, so if you have a question answer approach, so there are a lot of times where things are going in your life and somehow you are not able to make sense or join the dots and get to the reality here. Why is this happening to me? So when we go through a book, or when we are going to any kind of session where there are question and answers, so somehow you will start decoding your own the answers to your own questions. So sometimes you have this thing in our mind, should I do this, should I don't do this, you have this doubt. So you're 50-50 on the probability scale, and suddenly you are watching something and this thing comes, oh, you should go for it. There'll be small signs. So these signs are nothing but our guardian angels, our spirit guides. They're guiding us. So when we take note of these signs, and all those who were there, in part of the Ikigai, when we did the life purpose meditation. So at the end, it was what? Be more attentive, be more conscious. Your spirit guides and your guardian angels will now be sending you more signals. So, you'll probably see it on the street, you'll see it on the TV. So when you go for, question answer format, it's the similar thing. So somehow, whatever the questions are there in the back of the mind, not regarding the book, but your life per se, will start getting answered. All you need to do is be more attentive, be more conscious, and yes, you will be able to figure out how to connect these dots. So preface by Mark Allen, author of Visionary Business and a Visionary Life. Perhaps once in a decade, or even once in a generation, a book like The Power of Now comes along. It is more than a book. There is a living energy in it, and one you can probably feel as you hold it. It has the power to create an experience in readers and change the lives for the better. The Power of Now was first published in Canada, and the Canadian publisher, Connie Kellogg, told me she heard repeated stories of positive changes and even miracles that have happened once people got into the book. Readers call in, she said, and so many of them tell me of the wonderful healings, transformations, and increased joy they are experiencing because they have embraced this book. This book makes me aware that every moment of my life is a miracle. This is absolutely true. Whether I realize it or not, and the power of now over and over shows me how to realize it. From the first page of this writing, it is clear that Eckhart Tolle is a contemporary master. He's not aligned with any particular religion or doctrine or guru. His teachings embraces the heart, the essence of all other traditions, and contradicts none of them. Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, indigenous, or anything else. He is able to do what all the great masters have done to show us in simple and clear language that the way, the truth, and the light is within us. Eckhart Tolle begins by briefly introducing us to his story, a story of early depression and despair that culminated in a tremendous experience of awakening one night not long after his 29th birthday. For the past 20 years, he has reflected on that experience, meditated, and deepened his understanding. In the last decade, he has become a world class teacher, a great soul with a great message, one that Christ taught, one that Buddha taught. A state of enlightenment is attainable here and now. It is possible to live free of suffering, free of anxiety and neurosis. To do this, we have to come to understand our role as the creator of our pain. Our own mind causes our problems, not other people, not the world out there. It is our own mind with its nearly constant stream of thoughts, thinking about the past, worrying about the future. We make the great mistake of identifying with our mind, thinking that who we are, when in fact we are far greater beings. Over and over, Eckhart Tolle shows us how to connect with what he calls our being. Being is the eternal, ever present, one life beyond the myriad forms of life that are subject to birth and death. However, being is not only beyond, but also deep within every form as its innermost, invisible, and indestructible essence. This means that it is accessible to you now as your own deepest self, your true nature, but don't seek to grasp it with your mind. Don't try to understand it. You can know it only when the mind is still, when you are present fully and intensely in the now. To regain awareness of being and to abide in that state of feeling realization is enlightenment. So, the first and the foremost step towards spiritual enlightenment is to have this realization or have this feeling of this being that's there, that's you. But, when we approach it with our mind, especially with our conscious mind, it's going to make so many stories out of it. So many logics are going to come out of it. So many analogies are going to come out of it that it would not let us be in that feeling of being. So the first step is to still the mind. We will definitely be doing a lot of exercises. I will be sharing a lot of some YouTube good videos on how to still the mind. And yes, we would be doing a lot of meditations of stilling the mind. So that if you are scared or if this chapter thought that it's something which went beyond, it's okay. Because this whole book of the 30 days is only about this chapter and breaking it into small pieces so that we are able to digest it piece by piece and absorb the best out of it. The power of now is nearly impossible to read straight through. It requires you to put it down periodically and reflect on the words and apply them to your own life experience. It is a complete guide, a complete course in meditation and realization. It is a book to be revisited again and again, and each time you revisit it, you gain new depth and meaning. It is a book that many people, including me, will want to study for a lifetime. The Power of Now has a growing number of devoted readers. It has already been called a masterpiece. Whatever it is called, however it is described, it is a book with the power to change lives, the power to awaken us to fully realize who we are. So you have the foreword by Russell E. DeClaro, author of Towards a New Worldview. Blanketed by an azure sky, the orange yellow rays of the setting sun can, at special times, gift us with a moment of such considerable beauty. We find ourselves momentarily stunned with frozen gaze. The splendor of the moment so dazzles us. Our compulsively chattering minds give pause so as not to mentally whisk us away to a place other than the here and now. Bathed in luminescence, a door seems to open to another reality, always present yet rarely witnessed. Abraham Maslow called these peak experiences, since they represent the high moments of life where we joyfully find ourselves catapulted beyond the confines of the mundane and ordinary. He might just as well have called them peak experiences. During these expansive occasions, we sneak a glimpse of the eternal realm of being itself. It is only for a brief moment in time we come home to our true self. Ah, one might sigh, so grand if only I could stay here, but how do I take up permanent residence? During the past 10 years, I have committed myself to finding out. During my search, I have been honored to engage in dialogue with some of the most daring, inspiring, and insightful paradigm pioneers of our time in medicine, science, psychology, business, religion, spirituality, and human potential. This diverse group of individuals is joined by the commonly voiced insight that humanity is now taking a quantum leap forward in its evolutionary development. This change is accompanied by a shift in worldview, the basic picture we carry with us of the way things are. A worldview seeks to answer two fundamental questions. Who are we? And what is the nature of universe in which we live? Our answers to these questions dictate the quality and characteristics of our personal relationships with family, friends, and employees. When considered on a larger scale, they define societies. It should be of little surprise that the worldview which is emerging calls into question many of the things Western society holds to be true. Myth number one: humanity has reached the pinnacle of its development. Esalen co founder Michael Murphy, drawing upon comparative religious studies, medical science, anthropology, and sports, has made a provocative case that there are more advanced stages of human development. As a person reaches these advanced levels of spiritual maturity, extraordinary capacities begin to blossom of love, vitality, personhood, bodily awareness, intuition, perception, communication, and violation. First step to recognize they exist. Most people do not. Then methods can be employed with conscious intention. So myth that, wherever we have reached is the highest point of development, but life keeps going, keeps evolving. You learn everything, you learn so many new things every day, and not just us, everybody around the world. See, it's all about getting into the higher realm of consciousness. So wherever we are, we feel that is the end. But if we have that learner's attitude or a learner's mindset, and yes, there are ways and means to get to the higher realms of consciousness. Myth number 2: we are completely separate from each other, nature, and the cosmos. The myth of other than me has been responsible for wars, the rape of the planet, and all forms of expression of human injustice. After all, who in their right mind would harm another if they experience that person as part of themselves? Stan Grof, in his research of non ordinary states of consciousness, summarizes by saying the psyche and the consciousness of each of us is, in the last analysis, commensurate with all that is, because there are no absolute boundaries between the body, ego, and the totality of existence. Dr. Larry Dozy's Era 3 medicine, where the thoughts, attitudes, and healing intention of one individual can influence the physiology of another person, in contrast to Era Z prevailing mind body medicine, is very well supported by scientific studies into the healing power of prayer. Now, this can't happen according to the known principles of physics and the worldview of traditional science. Yet, the preponderance of evidence suggests that indeed it does. So, we are the myth of being completely separate from each other, the nature and the cosmos, is something which is been done by a lot of people. It's all about the realization, because when we talk about spirituality and we talk about the higher realms of consciousness, so there, it's all done to experience that one state, or that one state of oneness. That's the highest possible I have heard of. Probably there are more, but yeah, the stage of oneness, that everybody is the same. And myth number 3: the physical world is all there is. Materialistically bound, traditional science assumes that anything that cannot be measured, tested in a laboratory, or probed by the five senses or their technological extensions simply doesn't exist. If it's not real, the consequence, all of reality has been collapsed into physical reality. Spiritual, or what I would call non physical dimensions of reality, have been run out of town. This clashes with the perennial philosophy that philosophical consensus spanning ages, religions, traditions, and cultures, which describes different but continuous dimensions of reality. These run from most dense and least conscious, what we'd call matter, to the least dense and most conscious, which we'd called spiritual. Interestingly enough, this extended multi-dimensional model of reality is suggested by quantum theorists such as Jack Scafferty, who describes superluminal travel. Other dimensions of reality are used to explain travel that occurs faster than the speed of light. The ultimate of speed limits, or consider the work of the legendary physicist David Bohm with his explicate physical and implicate non-physical multidimensional model of reality. There is no mercy theory, The 1982 aspect experiment in France demonstrated that two once connected quantum particles separated by vast distances remained somehow connected. If one particle was changed, the other changed instantly. Scientists don't know the mechanics of how this faster than the speed of light travel can happen, though some theorists suggest that this connection takes place via doorways into higher dimensions. So the myth that there is only a physical world, and with the awareness now of the metaphysical, is so much evident now. Now, where is this coming from? Is everything is energy. I am also some energy. Everybody's energy. So every energy has a vibrational frequency. So when you're even in the physical world, everything has a vibrational frequency. You know, even a rock has a vibrational frequency, but somehow we are not at that vibrational frequency, so we are unable to decipher it. But if we are if we can learn that skill or get ourselves into changing our vibrational frequency and getting onto the that frequency, it's possible to speak with trees, it's possible to speak with rocks, it's possible to communicate with spirits. Everything is possible. All you need to do is change your vibrational frequency and tune. It's like tuning a radio channel. So you tune into that frequency and you'll get to listen to that. So the frequency of the physical world of the humans is different. The frequency in the physical world of animals is different. Trees is different. And the physical world of spirit beings in the physical or the metaphysical is different. So in order to get to communicate with this, all is required is just the change of your own vibrational frequency. And there are a lot of ways for that. At core, this new world view involves seeing yourself, others, and all of life not through the eyes of our small earthly self that lives in time and is born in time, but rather through the eyes of the soul, our being, the true self. One by one, people are jumping to this higher orbit. With this book, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle rightfully takes his place among this special group of world class teachers. Eckhart's message, the problem of humanity, is deep rooted in the mind itself, or rather, our misidentification with mind. Our drifting awareness, our tendency to take the path of least resistance by being less than fully awake to the present moment, creates a void. And the time bound mind, which has been designed to use to be a useful servant, compensates by proclaiming itself master. Like a butterfly flittering from one form to another, the mind engages past experiences or projecting its own made for television movie, anticipates what is to come. Seldom do we find ourselves resting in the oceanic depth of the here and now, for it is here in the now where we find our true self, which lies behind our physical body, shifting emotions, and ever chattering mind. The crowning glory of human development rests not in our ability to reason and think, though this is what distinguishes us from animals. Intellect, like its instinct, as merely a point along the way. Our ultimate destiny is to reconnect with our essential being and express from our extraordinary divine reality in the ordinary physical world, moment by moment. Easy to say, yet rare are those who have attained the further reaches of human development. Fortunately, there are guides and teachers to help us along the way. As a teacher and guide, Eckhart's formidable power lies not in his adept ability to delight us with his entertaining stories, make the abstract concrete, or provide useful technique. Rather, his magic is seated in his personal experience as one who knows. As a result, there is a power behind his words found only in the most celebrated of spiritual teachers. By living from the depths of this greater reality, Eckhart clears an energetic pathway for others to join in them. And what if others do? Surely. The world as we know it would change for the better. Values would shift in the flotsam of vanishing fears that have been funneled away through the whirlpool of being itself. A new civilization would be born. Where's the proof of this greater reality, you ask? I offer only one analogy. A battery of scientists can get together and tell you about all the scientific proof for the fact that bananas are bitter. But all you have to do is taste one once to realize that there is this whole other aspect to bananas. Ultimately, proof lies not in intellectual arguments, but in being touched in some way by the sacred within and without. Eckhart Tolle masterfully opens us to that possibility. Russell E. DiCarlo, author towards a New World View, Conversations at the Leading Edge, Erie, Pennsylvania, USA, January 1998. And a word, a lot of acknowledgements.